Today we're taking a look at the Davinci Resolve basics, how to edit videos from start to finish, how to import them, how to edit them, add transitions, speed ramping, color grade them, and also export them. Hey, what's up everybody and welcome back to the YouTube channel. Finally back at it, and I hope you just enjoyed your New Year's Eve and started well into 2022. Today we're taking a look at the Davinci Resolve basics, how to edit videos from start to finish, how to import them, how to edit them, add transitions, speed ramping, color grade them, and also export them. So let's start with the first topic, the data management. So I usually store all my footage I'm working on an SSD, like this SanDisk SSD. Actually, I have my Samsung T7 attached to my computer, so I cannot show it, but these are the kind of SSDs you should looking at. There are also HDD drives like this one, which is a lot slower than this one. Also, SSD drives are more durable. Sometimes you get corrupted files if you drop this because it's a spinning disk and an SSD is not a spinning disk anymore, but it's also a lot more expensive, but it's also worth the money since this is very compact and you can take it on the go and edit from there. Also, sometimes you can have the best PC in the world, but if you're working on a very slow disk, it slows down your editing workflow a ton. But ironically, I actually show you footage or edit footage which are stored on my archive hard drive disk because I actually archived this project, but I'm gonna show it to you anyways. I created proxies so it still works flawlessly for me. Without further ado, let's jump right into Davinci Resolve and see how the panel looks like. So if you open up Davinci Resolve, you get this panel looking window from Davinci where all your projects are visible in little thumbnails, and you can also sift through just like that to see what's going on in that project. Usually what I would do is create a new project. I just created this project already, but let's do it from the beginning. So I will create a new project here, call it something like YouTube Davinci tutorial, create, and this is the panel you usually get from Davinci Resolve. Usually it starts here on the cut page. I don't know why. So we actually start here in the media page. So go over to the media page. By the way, if you want to follow along and you don't have any footage, I just provided the footage I'm using right now or today in the Davinci tutorial just in the description below, so go ahead and download it if you want to follow along while I'm explaining the panels kinda, so you don't have to wait to download it afterwards. And I'm using the studio version of Davinci Resolve, so it could be that you cannot import the footage because it's 10-bit on the free Davinci Resolve version. If so, let me know in the comments so I can provide you some other footage which is maybe pre-color graded, so you can also work on it on the editing page at least, or also do some stylization on the color grading page if you want to. But I'm actually showing you how I would import my real footage, like a real world example. So yeah, usually you work your way from left to right, importing the files in the media page, then go on to the cut page and sift through your footage, taking out your best clips, etc. Then you go over to the editing page where you piece everything together, adding speed ramps, transitions, etc. Then we have a fusion page, which is pretty much the same like After Effects kinda, where you can do crazy SFX stuff and tracking, but we are not going to dive into the fusion page today because this is like too much to explain there. And then you have the color page where you obviously color correct and color grade your footage, and also the Fairlight tab, which is desired to edit audio, sound designing, etc. And then you have the deliver page where you can export your video. Alright, let's start with the media page. So once you've downloaded the files, you can actually go and navigate to your folder where you download it. For me, it's here on my book. I got it in projects and then short film, and there are the files. So I just need a footage file. What I would do is just drag and drop the footage file, or you can also add folder and subfolders into media pool, create bins, so you have everything organized like you did in the Explorer. You can also simply drag and drop your files into Davinci Resolve, of course. So this is my Windows Explorer or Finder on the Mac. You can go to footage. I got everything in here. Actually, I would drag and drop the whole container into Davinci. But the fun thing I just found out is if you drag and drop it to the big window here, it doesn't create any folders. As you can see, it just drops in all the files without folders. So this is kind of not what I want. So I just Control Z to undo it. And if you just drag and drop it over here on the side panel, it creates the folders as you have here in the Explorer, which is pretty weird. As you can see, now we have all the folders and how I wanted to have the project in, because I usually have a folder structure with all my files in. So yeah, this is how the importing works. Also, you can drag and drop it from up there, just like that, don't change. And it also creates the bins, but if you drag and drop it down here, it won't create bins. So keep that in mind. So I already prepared the project, so I'm gonna jump over to the other project. So I can just go to File, Project Manager, and it will open the same window as before. Or I can just go ahead and click on this panel up here, so I can change my project. But you have to activate that function in here in the Davinci File Manager, right click and switch on Dynamic Project Switch. So you can jump between projects just like that, otherwise it won't work. So I have timelines here. Usually what I would do is create a new bin. Just right click here on some empty space, create new bin, 01 timelines. And also I don't have my folder structure here somehow. Okay, ironically, this project is not really organized as it should be. Okay, usually I have a 01 video, got my video stuff, 02 audio, and this is where we have our audio, 01 music, and 02 SFX. And by the way, if you don't have a timeline yet, just create this timelines folder, go to the edit page, click on Control N, shortcut for that, or you can also go to File, New Timeline. This would do the same. And then you can actually untick this check mark if you want to and change the format. I usually do that if I create TikTok videos because it's a vertical and not horizontal video. And also, and then you will have the timeline in here. You can rename it, right click, and also set it up here if you forgot it. Just untick this box here so you can set the new format. After you just imported your files, you have this little gear icon here where you can set up your project settings. Since I'm from Europe and using PAL, I have 25 frames. This is my standard. You might have something else like 23.97 frames per second. This is also 0.976, but for me it's HD 1080p, 25 frames. Also frame rate is on 25. My resolution is on 1080p. Everything is set. Video bit depth is on 10-bit for me. And here you can also set up your proxies, where the proxies are gonna be. Usually for default, it takes this kind of weird path here for proxy media. So I would change that. And I want to have my proxies right at my main footage. So I just navigate to the footage folder, go to video, and then I just select this folder and it creates a proxies folder like this. I already did that, so just select this folder and now you have this path here. And then click on save. And if you want to have these settings as a default, you can also save it as a preset up here. But just make sure you make all the settings, then save, then go to the presets, because otherwise it just resets everything. So go back here and then you can save as, enter the preset name. I just called it current project, and then right click, save as user default config. So Davinci Resolve, every time it opens, it just takes these kind of settings for every project. So everything is set up and you imported your footage. You can actually go to the edit page, video. Let me open this a little bit, you can see a little bit more. And if you want to create proxies, just Control or Command A to mark everything. You can also do it in the cut or media page actually. Control A to mark everything, right click and generate proxy media, and Davinci Resolve will proceed and generate the proxy media for all the files. So it takes a while, and just do that if you haven't yet. Or I know this kind of footage is pretty heavy. It was shot on the Sony a7S III, so I would highly recommend to create proxy media. And yeah, by the way, this footage was taken when I just got my a7S III, so I was actually practicing exposure because S-Log 3 is kind of difficult or different to expose than S-Log2 or HLG, which I had before. So it was quite a challenge for me. So the footage might not be the fanciest ones, but I think it's easy to work on. So for today, after I imported all my media, created my proxy files, I would go to the cut page. And yeah, you see these red lines down here. This is because I already used that footage on my timeline here. But I will sift through with you, do it real quick so we can see how it actually works. So let me put my marker back here, and I don't need this stuff anymore. This is just for the YouTube purposes. Okay, let's say our timeline is completely empty, just like that. We're at the beginning here. So what you can do if you just see nothing up here, it's because you're in the wrong folder. You can either navigate from here, oops, or you can also navigate up here, actually go back and forward. Also click this little arrow here or this panel, so you can actually go around and just choose your footage, because I have it in here to Sony. And then what I would do is double click on the footage. Usually I start from up here, but this is nothing interesting, so I would just take the footage from down here for a little tutorial clip here. Just for an example, I just take the footage down here because it's not too much and it's pretty okay, I think, pretty decent. You can sift through here and append your clips. You can just press I and O to make or mark a in and out point, and then press comma. I think default is comma to append the clip, or click on this little icon here, append, and then it's on your timeline. I don't use my keyboard because I have the Davinci Resolve speed editor, so I usually append from there. But if you want to change your keyboard preferences or settings, you can go up here. Pretty easy keyboard customization, and here are all the commands. So you can also search for any command or just click on here so you can see what it does. I got my own keyboard shortcuts here. I try to match it like Davinci, like Premiere Pro kinda, so it's easier to begin with if you're totally new to Davinci Resolve. If you do that method, you just have to jump on the next clip and on the next one and do the same. So what I would usually do is go here and click on the source tape icon in the middle, and now you have all the clips in kind of one clip, so you can sift through. I just set my keyboard shortcuts when I didn't have the speed editor to JKL, so J for sifting back, let me show you, for go back, and L for going forward, and K to stop. So you can just easily shortcut in and out, do it like that, in, and then from here to here, out, and then append. But I do it with the speed editor right now just to show you. So here's the in and then out and append. Next clip, I can in, out, append just as I want. This looks kind of fine. This is like where he sets up the camera, so it's super shaky. So I take this part to this part, append, and just like that you can put your clips together. And you can also adjust it down here, and you gotta double click here again, click on this icon. I know how to do it on the speed editor, change from source to timeline, but I don't know how the shortcut is. This is how I would usually go through and sift through my project. And then I would just name my timeline version 1 sifting, like this, version 1 bracelet sifting, and the next one would be version 2 editing. So because I have all my sifted clips in here, and in the edit page or editing timeline, I would take out the clips and delete them. Sometimes I just go back to the sifting page and I was like, so, oh well, I needed that clip, but I deleted it. This is just how I would edit or how I organize my timelines, because I want to have everything clean on the editing page, only the clips I need. So these are the clips we're working on. I don't use any sounds here, so I'm gonna delete that. Sometimes I use the sound, but not for this one. I just got some variations here from the same movements. So I try to take the best clips. So in the sifting process, I just try to get the best clips, but sometimes in the editing page, you finally see if the clips are good enough or not. This is why I kind of do it again. I try to get the best clips, but here I really get the unique clips I want to have in my timeline. Oh yeah, just leaving it back here so I can show you another trick. Okay, these are the little clips, not too much. And if you have these gaps in between, you can either press F, I have it binded on F to ripple delete, or you can actually mark them all with Control A or just drag and drop a little window like that. Go to edit and delete gaps, and it automatically delete all the gaps, so you have a organized timeline and everything looks good. All right, now let's try to make it look kind of flawless here. Let's actually start with the clip where I take it out of the backpack like that and stop it right here. Take this clip and make it kind of match, and you can also drag the clip to another video track, so find the right position. So you take it out like that, so this looks pretty flawless from a wide shot into a close-up. And this is kind of shaky. I try to stabilize that. So I'm just showing you how I would edit it in a real world example. If you want to take more footage, you just go here on the side panel to where you just stored your footage at, and you can check for more footage. So this is how I would organize it, maybe a little bit shorter, just like that, up here. And when I do the jump, where I jump, and then I'm jumping here mid-air too, it looks flawlessly. Put everything down. Also, I got my shortcuts for marking the clips from 1 to 6, I think, where you get different colors, or even to 9, so you can better organize it. For example, let's say, oh, this clip looks good, I want to have it there. I just mark it, and then I mark another clip which is actually the same. So let's say you have 2 of the same clips, and then you say this one was better, so I mark it like that. And then you can disable this one or disable this one and activate this one, so you can see which one is better or matches better. This is what I usually do. Or if you have different scenes, you can mark all the clips for a color. And then let's say we have another scene where I was walking up here, for example. The scene has another color, so you can differentiate from different colors. It's easier maybe. So yeah, this is how I would organize a timeline. Okay, now we can actually start with the time remapping and see how time remapping works. So in Davinci Resolve, it's not the best way, in my opinion, to do speed ramping. It's not flawlessly like in Premiere Pro, but we have to work with it here. So I'm gonna show you how it works. So simply you just click Control R or Command R on the Mac, and now you have this kind of panel here where you can change the speed. Also, you have a side panel usually, which is the effect property in Premiere Pro, I think. So just make sure you have the inspector on, so you have everything here, so you can play around with the zoom and keyframes and also speed change. You can also activate the retime controls by right-clicking and retime controls. Then you have to right-click again for retime curve. Zoom in a little bit until you see this little handle here, because if you zoomed out you won't see it, and now you zoomed in, you have it. So we don't need retime frame, we need retime speed. Deactivate retime frame, and now we have the little bar here, just like in Premiere Pro or Final Cut probably. And then you just go to a point where you want to have the speed ramp. So just go here. So you can either hold down Alt and left click to add a marker. Usually it's not that precise somehow. Or you can just click on this little bezel here. So you have it separated now. This clip is on 100%, and this clip you can just play around with the speed. And also make sure this is on another video track, because if you going to slow it down, it's gonna overlap and it's gonna ripple delete the next clip. Just keep that in mind. Also click this little handle here so you can make it ease in more flawlessly, instead of just abrupt changing the speed just from 100 to 50, which would look pretty weird. I think that okay, this doesn't look too bad if you do it like that. But let's say you have a 25%. This was shot on 50, so I cannot really go to 25. But let's say this is a lot faster. It looks kind of weird. It doesn't look so flawless like if you will do it like that. So this ramp looks a little bit better. But this is just an extreme example. I would keep this on 100 probably. And then I set my keyboard shortcut on Alt Y to select everything after that clip. So I would just drag and drop it. Also go down here because we don't need audio yet. And I would actually also slow this down. So again, Control R, right click, retime curve, retime speed. I know this is kind of annoying sometimes if you have to do it every time. I don't know if there's a faster way to do it. 50, set this maybe to something faster to make it look better on the next one. It flows with the movement, as you can see here. As I'm taking it out, going down. I usually take my clips down by holding Alt and pressing key down. You can also play with the percentage here if you take this handle up here. So as you can see, it changes the percentage. I don't know if there's an easier way to do it, but yeah, this is how kind of Davinci works. And then I would stabilize this one. Just go to stabilization, and usually the default stabilization settings are pretty okay, but it's wobbling around here. So I think it won't smooth out with the perspective mode, so I would change that to similarity. Sometimes you have to try it out. I think translation would be the best here. This doesn't look too bad too, to be honest. So yeah, let's keep it like that. If I have a transition at the end, like a whip transition, I would speed up, but it doesn't make any sense here. So it just like that, and then I'm gonna pull this one down so I have everything on the same timeline. All right, sorry guys, the memory card was full, so I tried to explain it again. I don't know where it actually stopped. So what I did is keep this on 100%, slow it down to 75%, and keep this on 75%, and also slow this down to 50%. I didn't take 50% because it was kind of too slow for me. Also, to check the frame rate you recorded this in, so you know how much you can slow it down, is by right-clicking, clip attributes, and video frame rate is on 50. So I recorded this on 50 FPS, so I can slow it down to 50% max because 25 is my timeline. So half of 50 is 25, so 50%. This is the max I'm able to slow it down. But there's also a trick where you can slow it down even more to like 25%. It looks kind of choppy right now. You see that? Let me show it to you. It's really intense for your computer, but if you really have to slow it down because you recorded it in the wrong frame rate for some reason, you can actually take it down to 25%, go to retime and scaling, change the retime process to optical flow, also motion estimation to speed warp, and this is gonna take really long to render, but it looks good actually. And by the way, what I would turn on is playback and render cache, change it to smart so it pre-renders so it can work faster. So this is already rendered. You see the blue line here and the red line. The blue line is already rendered and the red line is still rendering. So it's really choppy here, as you can see. This is pretty smooth already. Even though I didn't record this in 100 frames, I can slow it down to 25%. So this is pretty sick actually. You see this? It looks flawlessly actually. It looks pretty good. It does a really good job. I don't know where the limits are. I never tested the limits. Probably for faster motion it won't work as good as here, but for this example it works pretty good. So I'm just gonna leave that there. Maybe I'm gonna take it. Looks good already. And then we can just fade it out. There's a little handle up here, so you can kind of cross dissolve it just like that. Suits very well. I know it's just an 8-second clip, but this is just for learning the basics of Davinci Resolve, because I don't want to keep you here for like 1 hour or so. So this is pretty a kind of fast-pacing video, trying to describe everything here, my editing process, etc. So yeah, let's start with the color grading. After we just finished the editing, we can jump over to the color page down here. You can also do zoom transitions if you want to. For example, if I want to zoom in, I can just click here, create keyframes for position and zoom. And then at the very last frame, I can zoom in and change the position like that. Just click on this little X icon up here so we can close this. And now we can activate the keyframes by clicking down here on the little keyframe icon, and then we can move it around. I would take it to the last or very last frame here, so it zooms in a little bit, just like that. Maybe this is a little bit too much, so I'm gonna adjust it just like that to create a little bit of motion. So from a zoom in to a zoom out again. You can also click this little arrow here to jump back to the last keyframe. This is maybe good. And also here again, you can also disable the speed controls. Just Control R, and then you see this little icon down here again. Just click on it. This one you can disable actually, and then just move the handle. Now it looks like that. Looks kind of weird. I did not stabilize this, right? Yeah. Let's do a similarity stabilization. See how it works. Yeah, this is not too bad. This one was stabilized already, I think. Do it again. Doesn't look too bad. This is handheld. I think this is pretty okay with shaking. Maybe I would zoom a little bit more here. Change the position, just like that. Or actually, I wouldn't zoom here. So just double click to reset the zoom position, etc. Or you can also click here on the handles. But you will lose the keyframes if you click on this reset here. If I do keyframes just like that, and I click on this one, I would lose every keyframe for the zoom. So if you do it like that, let's say you start with the zoom in, I want to zoom out, double click it, and it creates a reframe. Otherwise, it just deletes all the keyframes. All right, I would actually speed this up a little bit. So I take this handle, I think. Maybe even more. But this is too much. So I would keep it like that, I think. Yeah. I think this looks pretty good. Now we can actually close these. Okay, now we have everything set up. We can actually jump to the color page, and I try to keep it as simple as possible for you. For some projects, I take a huge node tree or create a huge node tree, but just to keep it simple and don't confuse the heck out of you, as Wakazi would say, I try to keep a very simple node tree for you so you can follow along without any hassle. So what I would do is create some nodes here. Let me push this over. We don't need the gallery actually, so we can see the node tree pretty good. Also, to make more real estate, just click here on clips to disable this down here. And now I would create some nodes here. I will explain it to you in a second. All right, I would create 7 nodes here. This is actually a very simple node tree, to be honest. So what I do, I have also my shortcuts. It's Alt S to create a new serial node tree, or you can actually right click and add node, add serial, which is gonna add a serial node, as you can see here, just like layers in Photoshop. And now I would name it. I have my shortcut on Shift L to rename it. Probably the default settings are kind of different. So this is the color space transform, CST. This is the balance. This one would be highlights. This one would be saturation. This one is going to be curves. The next one is going to be wheels. And this one is going to be look adjustment. So the CST is actually transforming the right color space. So you can just open the effects panel up here if you don't see it. And there's a little magnification icon up here. Just type in color and you can see this color space transform. And you can navigate through the node tree by holding down the mouse wheel, so you can navigate around. And now we just take this color space transform and slap it on our CST. And our input color space for this one is Sony S-Gamut Cine, because I recorded this in the color profile Sony S-Gamut 3, which is S-Log 3. Input gamma is S-Log 3. Color output is going to be Rec 709. Output gamma is going to be gamma 2.4. So this is what we have from out of the camera. Actually, what it looks like in real life, it's kind of purple because I think I just took the wrong white balance, but we can fix that. This is 10-bit footage, so it's pretty easy to recover it. Now I would start with the balance first. Also, my shortcut for disabling nodes is Control D, so you can see what you've done with one single node. So let's start with the balancing. Usually I would also change the space to this waveform so you can see the parade. Now you can see everything like waveform, vector scope, and usually I work here in the parade or waveform to see how the white balance should be. And also if you hover over and just take the qualifier, you can see where everything is. Now it's showing nothing on the scopes down there because you have to go to the three dots, display qualifier focus, and now you can see where everything lays. So my t-shirt is pretty out of the place here. You can see the reds are too deep and the greens are too high, and also the blues. So we're trying to get that right. You can either play with the white balance here. Now our t-shirt is not too bad. Or we can also play with the offset to make it look right, just like that. It's kind of too warm for me. The blues are still kind of high. So I try to match that real quick. And now we have a white t-shirt, kinda. Can also take down the blues a little bit more, as you can see what I did here. And now it should be kind of white, pretty much white. Usually I play with the temp, also with the offset sometime. Offset is going to color your whole image, as you can see here if you overdo it. But I would keep it like that. This doesn't look too bad. Before and after, we got all the colors back. This was a sunset shoot, so it's warm, so that's pretty okay for me. So what I would do is playing with the balance, and I change it to parade. So I can see my highlights up here, my midtones, and my shadows. So I can up the shadows, the gain. Also make sure you're on this color wheel here. So I would take up my highlights. We take down the midtones, also take down the shadows, make it more moody, like filmic look. You can also do it another way. I just like to make it look like that. Maybe up the midtones again and down the shadows. That also up the highlights a little bit. I think this doesn't look too bad. I like to have my shadows crushed a little bit down there. Preference. Also make sure you're on the hero frame. The whole framing looks the same, so I just keep it like that. You can also increase the contrast if you have too less contrast in your opinion, but this looks pretty good. I'm just gonna show you an easy way to color grade this. So this already looks good. This is color corrected. It looks like how it looked in real life. So now we have also the highlight tab here. You don't have to use everything I use here, but this is my standard kind of node tree. Playing with the highlights and shadows. If you go up here, you can up the highlights or just decrease it, and also up the shadows. It's like shadow and highlights in Lightroom actually. So if you have too dark shadows, you can just go and increase it here. Maybe we're gonna increase it a little tad. Also with the highlights, if you have an overblown sky, you can try to take back the highlights to maybe recover some of the details. Doesn't look too bad. It's just a little change, but it's okay. Also the saturation, you can either play with the saturation or color boost sometimes. So saturation is like saturation in Lightroom, and color boost is kind of like vibrance. So I would up the saturation just a little bit, just like that. So we have a little bit more colors in the image. And yeah, I just make this on a single node because it's easier to track everything like that. You can also do it in one node, but if you work on different or multiple clips, you want to have different saturation levels, because sometimes it's more saturated than other scenes. And also highlights is not the same, because sometimes you shoot indoors and then outdoors, so it varies. So this is why I made a node tree like that. Then we jump on curves. I would take out the link down here, so we can only adjust our luminance without adjusting our colors, just like in Photoshop. And now I would take a highlight here, brighter. This is actually just like in Photoshop, editing a still, taking down the shadows a little bit. And the midtones, I would probably keep them around here. If you want to have the faded blacks, you just up the blacks here. This is before and after. We just extended the contrast, and we can also play with the curves here, actually, with hue and saturations. Hue versus hue. Usually I try to keep my greens out, so try to make it more fally, so don't overdo it. Sometimes it just crushes the image. You can also separate the greens and just edit them by themselves, but I just keep it like that. Do we have some blues here? Oh yeah, in the background, just make it a little bit more tealish. And here you can also play with the saturation. It's actually just like the HSL tab in Lightroom. Increase the yellows a little bit, but keeping the reds down. Maybe make the sky in the background pop a little bit more. And what I like to do is go to hue versus luminance and just add a red node, so I can increase the brightness of my skin a little bit, so I stand out a little bit more. But I'm actually well lit here, so before and after so far. Also, you can play with this color warper, which is pretty cool. So here's a vector scope, so you can see where your colors are. And you can also go to this little panel, show and 2x zoom, and also show skin color indicator, so you can see if your skin tones are right or not, or going to the right direction. Also, we can click here on this little point and extend the saturation to make it more saturated back here. So we have an orange and teal look here already going on. We can also play around like that, like crazy. Make it, this is like super orange and teal. I wouldn't do that. Yeah, and this is more organized in my opinion. Looks a lot better now, right? After the curves. Now I would play with the wheels, just change it back to parade. And the wheels are actually here. I like to play with the wheels here. Also, let's jump back real quick to the balance tab, because I also play with the log wheels. So the primaries are like the curves, like midtones, highlights, and shadows. And the log wheel is actually more between the curves. Like if you go to the curves panel, it's actually, let's say this is for the primary wheels. We're moving them around here, and the other wheels, like if you go up with the wheel, you extend it to back here. But if you're using the log wheels, it's actually going to pretend like that, or behave like the splines here. It's only taking the little space up here, so it doesn't affect the midtones too much. It just affects the highlights. So let me show you real quick. If I go to the log wheels and I play with the midtones, you can see it here in the waveform. So we have midtones around here. So if I go up, you see the shadows and the highlights are not really affected. Let's reset this. But if I go and play with the gamma, it's gonna lift the shadows and take down the highlights. So as you see, the log wheels are just going to affect a little part of your image or your video without affecting the other areas. It's more focused in one area. So I would play around and just keep it like that. And with the wheels, you can go even more detailed. You can see what you're affecting by clicking the little icon next to the label. So if I hold it, you can see this is light. This is only going to be higher highlights. Shadows, it's going to be these kind of shadows here. Move around, highlights, and we don't have any specular highlights here because these are the very high highlights. So you can play with the exposure, just to adjust it a little bit, just add a little bit of exposure here. turn down the highlights a little bit, and you can also add colors in here, so to the little areas, so you can do a lot. But I would use the wheels here just to adjust the exposure mainly, and then go to look adjustment, and here is how I would stylize the images or the photos, the videos, whatever. Go to the primaries and then play around with the gamma, for example, adding some warm tones. And for the gain, I would actually add some greens maybe for the image, and also for the lift I would add some blue tones. Let's check the vector scope. And for the log wheels, you can go even further. You won't see any changes like in the primary, so you have to really extend it to see anything. Watch out, vector scope, actually go here, add some teals, before and after. As you can see, this image was kind of too warm or pinkish, and you can just do a lot with the look adjustment. Also, you can go to HDR and adjust it even more. Not as too much. Orange shadows, a little bit of warmer tones to counter manage that. And yeah, this is the whole node tree we have with 7 nodes before and after, from a log footage to this, from this to actually this, then highlights, saturation, curves, wheels, look adjustment. And now you can also apply the color grade on the other clips. Just click and shift everything, and then middle mouse button to apply the color grade to every clip. And now we can just go through and see if this is too dark or not. This is probably too dark, so I don't do too much to the other nodes. I usually use the balance just to get everything right. So I try to reset this maybe just to see where we are, and then again go to parade, oops, and set everything right, well lit, doesn't look too bad. And also the log wheels, play around here. White balance is looking pretty okay. This is the same clip as this one, so I'm gonna keep it like that, I think. This is pretty much for color grading. If you want to add a LUT, just add a serial node, right click on it, LUT, and then there are some built-in LUT. So this is how it would look like. Then you can just go to this tab here, take down the gain output if you don't want to have it so intense. So this is more intense, this is less intense, just like opacity and Premiere Pro or Photoshop. So delete this one because I don't need it. And yeah, this is for color grading. Now we can group all the clips here. Right click on it and go to add into current group. And now you have more bezels or points, bullet points up here. You have 4 now, before that you had 2. And now we can add a group pre-clip. So what I would do in the group pre-clip is a noise reduction, which is not available in the free version. So just rename it NR for noise reduction. I would go here to this tab. This is for noise reduction. I would take frames 2 probably. Luma on. This is pretty heavy for every computer, so I would do it at the very end. And this is just a thumb of rule, or rule of thumb actually. I just take these dials. Usually if I really need to do noise reduction, I would go in and watch where I have to, or how I have to dial it in, threshold and everything. And also I would just disable this one to edit everything and just turn it on at the very end before you export it. So just keep it here. And the post or group pre-clip node, everything you put in here is affecting all of the clips just before you do the color grading. But also here's a post clip or group post clip. So everything you do here is affecting the images after you color grade it. So I would do everything after. Also, for these kind of notes here, there's actually a reason why I did this before the CST, because before the CST, the images or the video footage is kind of raw, and you want to edit everything in raw before you just convert it and then edit it, because you will lose a lot of details. Just like in Photoshop or Lightroom, if you import an image in the camera raw, or in Lightroom, you can actually do the most out of the image before you jump right into Photoshop. After that, it's kind of limited. So just keep that in mind. It's not a raw image anymore. So this is why I did everything before the CST. And now the group post clip. This is very handy if the clients, for example, say, I want to have the clips warmer, like the whole video, I want to have it warmer. Just go here to temp, add warmness, and even without me selecting all the clips getting warmer or colder, as you can see down here in the thumbnail already. So if I make it super warm, every clip is a lot warmer. Or if the clients say, I want to have everything brighter, so you can just add the offset here. Everything is kind of dark, so just add offset, and every clip is going to be a lot more bright, or a lot brighter. So this is for post clip processing. I also add some grain and glow usually here, but yeah, this will be another video. Today is just, I'm going through the basics so you can understand DaVinci Resolve a little bit more, so it maybe makes your editing workflow a lot easier. Also, let me know in the comments if I have to explain something in more detail for you so you can understand it a little bit better. But for here, I would actually just add a sharpen node. So let's call this sharpen. Oh, not Sharon. Sharpen. And if you take down the blur radius here, you actually sharpen the image. So let's take a look here. If I take it down, it's gonna sharpen the image. If I increase it, it's gonna blur out the image. So what I would do here is just take blur radius a little bit down, just like that, and it adds a little bit of detail here. So it sharpens the image just enough for me. You can also select different clips to color match it if you have to, but also that's for another video. So you can see both parades here, so you can color match it a lot easier, but that's another topic again. So after we did that, we can go to the Fairlight tab and add some audio and stuff. I don't really like the Fairlight tab somehow. I like to edit my audio here. So I just prepared some audio for you guys, some music and sound designing. So we can just drag and drop it. I have everything in the description below, as I said. So yeah, let's add some sound here, some sound designing, and see how it looks like. All right, I just added a music track. I don't think we can do too much on the sound designing. I just edited the last part a little bit. Also, if DaVinci Resolve is kind of too loud for you, let me show you. You can go here on the side, just click on dim, so it takes down the overall volume, but just for you, not for the video clip itself, just for you to edit if you have YouTube or so open and you want to listen to something else, and DaVinci Resolve is just too loud in comparison to the other apps, so you can just dim it down there, or you can just adjust it. But yeah, let's just go through the clip real quick. I just created some markers here where the clip actually snaps back, just like that. There's a snare, and then there's the next clip. So let's adjust the other clips real quick. What I usually do is listen to the audio and press M on the keyboard to set a marker, but on this audio clip we can see the high peaks here actually good, so it's actually a snare. So let's You can add some sound effects, by the way, while it's still rendering. So I also provided some sound effects. There's not too much to do on the sound effects side on this clip. I got some boots, duffel bag. Let's just see what sounds better. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is actually gonna affect the color like that. But yeah, what I would do is mute this track so we can focus on the sound designing. Retime this. So we gotta retime it here, about 50%. And also make sure to take out pitch correction because this is super weird sometimes. Demonstrate it to you how it sounds like. Yeah, take it out. So it's really slow mode. Slow, so I think I'm gonna speed it up actually. And start it somewhere here. This is maybe too fast. Yeah, this is too fast, so sometimes I just gotta play around. Maybe I take this one, not sure yet. Maybe just the beginning of this one. Make this a little bit less dominant. Yeah, this looks a lot better. Or this sounds actually a lot better. This is the sound only. Okay. And also I got this ambient sound which can lay down in the background. Let's just mark it like that. Kind of ambient sound. Get some wind going on and some birds. This is too loud, of course, so just keep it down. But you have to keep in mind your audio track is also going to be super loud, so maybe we just leave it like that and then let's hear it here. Yeah, it's too loud. Sorry for the volume. And by the way, I get my music and sound effects from Epidemic Sound, so if you want to check them out, just check the link in the below. The good thing is you can get a free subscription for 1 month and try it out, and if you like it, you can just go ahead and keep the subscription. Also, if you do videos for clients, etc., in that 1 month trial, you can still keep the music license, so there's no issue with that. So you can actually sign up, try it for yourself, if it works for you or not. Even if it does not work for you, you can still keep the music license on the video you provided to the client. All right, let's move on. And I also added some whip whoosh effects here. This whip is of course too fast, so making this a lot slower, like 20%. Take out pitch correction, don't forget that. Now it sounds a lot better. Also, I like to add a riser here before the sounds just go off. Okay, let's take a look where the footsteps are. Here's one. So let's add a marker. Here's another footstep. Set a marker. And the last one would be here, so maybe add that one too. Mute the track again. Can also click on this icon so it doesn't snap if you want to make it precisely. Usually I do it for sound designing just like that. Too quiet, so I want to take the second step. Also, you can increase the volume here too, but I like to have it here controlled. Also, we have second steps here, so I take that out. I just want the main steps. I don't want this step here too. this out. All right, let's play it through. Yeah, let me do a export real quick to see if this is really affecting the clip or not. I hope not. So we go to the deliver page. Oh, this is the ambient sound. I can also take this down real quick, just like that. Also go to the deliver page. Now I want to export this for YouTube, obviously, to show it to you. So I go to YouTube. They have really good presets here. 1080p is the clip. Also for other presets, you can go to Premiere Pro XML if you want to edit this in Premiere Pro. So it export an XML timeline actually, so it can flawlessly edit this footage in Premiere Pro. If you want to color grade it here and then do the editing in Premiere Pro, which I totally understand why. You can also create master files H265 or H264, but we're gonna stick with YouTube 1080p Davinci Resolve tutorial. The location, and I'm going to create a folder called export save, and then you can do different settings here, but I'm gonna add this to the render queue. Also render all here, and after it's finished, you can go to the desired folder and watch your clip. Yeah, and it doesn't affect the color, as you can see, like the flicker you saw here, because of that optical flow stabilization. Fortunately. Okay, so yeah. Alright guys, I hope this video was helpful and informative for you. Let me know if you want to see more content like this in the future. Also, let me know if you have any further questions in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider to subscribe. This would help me out a lot. And hopefully I will catch you in the next video.